On the evening of October 15th, 2025, Prince William entered his private meeting room in his residence at Windsor Castle, his face weary and tense. In recent days, the pressure upon him had grown like an invisible mountain. King Charles was weakening by the day. Princess Catherine had yet to fully recover. And across England, the public began to ask, was William ready to become king? It was this very weight of expectation, responsibility, and the unrelenting scrutiny of the nation that left him barely a moment to breathe. Inside the room were only Princess Anne and three trusted aides. William fought to maintain his composure. Pale golden light fell across the wooden table, reflecting a face both resolute and exhausted. They were discussing the temporary assumption of some of King Charles' duties, a decision William himself was reluctant to admit was necessary. His voice was slow, steady, yet each word seemed laden with gravity. Suddenly, in the middle of the meeting while discussing Queen Elizabeth's memorial, William abruptly froze. He raised a hand to his chest, his breast quickening, then collapsed onto the table to the horror of those around him. Chairs toppled with a loud clatter. Princess Anne sprang to her feet, shouting for the doctor, while the aides rushed forward in panic. In that instant, the room seemed to stop. No one had expected the heir to the throne, a symbol of strength and steadfastness, to fall in the midst of a meeting. What do you think truly caused Prince William to collapse? Pressure, illness, or a warning the royal family has been desperate to conceal? To understand the real reason behind that collapse, we must look back at the strange signs that had appeared over the previous weeks. Throughout September and early October 2025, Prince William appeared increasingly unlike himself. The once brisk gait and familiar lively expression were replaced by a gaunt, pale man weighed down by worry. Royal correspondents noted he rarely smiled, and even at public ceremonies, William's eyes betrayed a fatigue he could not hide. Those close to him say it all began when King Charles had to be hospitalized for extended treatment. While the king rested at Sandringham, William carried nearly the entire burden of running royal affairs. His schedule was packed from meetings with advisors and ceremonial duties to a string of sudden trips. He slept only a few hours a night, ate irregularly, and often worked until midnight. One close advisor recalled, he was always the last to leave the meeting room, though everyone could see he was utterly exhausted. Princess Catherine, still recovering from her own long treatment, worried but felt helpless. She confided to a close friend, William doesn't know how to stop. He fears that if he rests, everything will collapse. Pressure after pressure left William in a constant state of tension. He reminded himself to stay strong for the country, for his father, and for his family. Yet his body had begun to respond. Princess Anne noticed first. In a private meeting at Balmoral in late September, she said bluntly to her brother, William, you need a few days' rest. Go to Sandringham, breathe fresh air, and put work aside for now. William merely gave a faint smile, his voice hoarse from lack of sleep. I can't, Anne. The country needs stability. If I step back, people will think the royal family is in crisis. Her words lingered in silence. She understood he had imprisoned himself in duty, yet no one could convince him to stop. Staff within the palace reported that by early October, William's exhaustion became visibly pronounced. He often wore hats and sunglasses even in private meetings to hide dark circles beneath his eyes. On some occasions, he would sit in silence for long stretches, his gaze vacant, seemingly fighting through a severe headache. One aide recalled, Prince William once signaled for water during a meeting, but his hands shook so badly he couldn't hold the glass. These signs worried everyone, yet none dared speak openly. The media began to raise questions. Leading British newspapers, including The Times and The Guardian, ran pointed headlines. Is Prince William overworked? Heir appears alarmingly weary. Kensington Palace quickly dismissed the claims, asserting, Prince William remains in full health and continues his duties. Yet behind palace doors, concerns continued to mount. A few days before the incident, William had begun complaining of persistent headaches and bouts of dizziness whenever he stood for too long. A private physician was called in for a preliminary check, and the advice was clear. Your Highness needs to rest. At least a week, or your body will respond. Boom, but William refused. He replied curtly, I cannot stop. Not now. Those close to him recalled that. On the very day the doctor left, he continued signing documents well past midnight. One long-serving advisor revealed, he's living as though he can carry the entire kingdom on his shoulders. But every human has limits, and the prince seems determined to forget that. During a public audience on October 10th, while speaking about a charitable initiative, William suddenly paused mid-sentence. He gripped the microphone tightly, took a deep breath, and forced a smile. Sorry, just a bit dizzy. The audience chuckled politely, yet those nearby could hear the tremor in his voice. Since returning to London, Princess Anne had been monitoring her brother closely. She sent him messages repeatedly, though not all received a reply. One day, a member of William's staff called Anne and said, Your Highness, Prince William looks exhausted. We are genuinely concerned. Anne replied softly, I know. But he listens to no one. It was reported that on the evening of October 13th, William told an aide that his heart was racing and his breath felt short, but he attributed it to stress. When the aide suggested contacting a doctor, he brushed it off. It's nothing. I'll be fine tomorrow. That was the last time anyone heard William speak with such calm. Perhaps his body was sending out desperate signals, but no one dared to stop him. He continued working without rest, appearing before the public with a forced smile, speaking of duty and conviction. Yet behind those bright photographs lay a heart on the verge of exhaustion and a spirit eroded by royal obligations. No one knew that the lightheadedness and sudden headaches were the final warning signs. On the evening of October 15th, 2025, a thin, cold fog settled over Windsor Castle, silent and eerie. Most of the royal grounds were dark, save for a single glowing window, the private meeting room deep within Prince William's residence. Pale golden light spilled across the ancient gray stone walls, reflecting the slow-moving shadows inside. No reporters, no cameras, just a closed meeting where some of the most critical decisions in England were quietly being made. Inside, William sat at the head of the table, hands resting on a thick dossier. To his right sat Princess Anne, the only royal present that evening. Across from them, two trusted aides, James Loughton and Michael Harrow, waited silently. They all understood the gravity of the meeting, discussing William's temporary assumption of military and royal duties on behalf of King Charles, who was undergoing long-term treatment within the royal medical wing. The atmosphere was thick with tension. The scratch of pens and the soft rustle of paper punctuated the room. William's voice rang out evenly, clearly, revealing his intense focus. He spoke of the upcoming schedule, a review at Sandhurst, the memorial for Queen Elizabeth II, and a series of meetings with cabinet ministers. Yet the longer he spoke, the hoarser his voice became, and his breathing grew heavier. Princess Anne noticed something was amiss. She leaned slightly forward and asked softly, Are you all right, William? He forced a small smile. I'm fine, just a little tired. Let's continue. The clock hands moved slowly, 8:12 p.m., a moment that seemed ordinary, yet it marked a terrifying turning point. William was mid-sentence, outlining military plans, when he suddenly fell silent. His face went pale, eyes wooded and unfocused. The pen in his hand slipped onto the table, leaving a streak of ink. His hands trembled. Then he clutched his chest, gasping for air. For a brief instant, the entire room froze. Then, to the shock of everyone present, Prince William collapsed onto the table, his body tipping to one side before hitting the floor with a heavy thud. Chairs toppled loudly. Princess Anne screamed, her voice shaking, Call the doctor, quickly! James and Michael rushed forward, trying to lift him. They called out repeatedly, Your Royal Highness, Prince, can you hear me? But William did not respond. His eyes slowly closed, his breathing weakening. Down the corridor, the sound of running footsteps echoed. One of the aides activated the internal royal medical alert, and the alarm bells rang out across the east wing of Windsor. Guards immediately closed the hallway, preventing anyone from approaching. At 8:16 p.m., the Royal Medical Team arrived on the scene, including Dr. Harold Keane, who had previously cared for King Charles. They carried medical kits, a defibrillator, and oxygen tanks. "Step back. Let us check his pulse," Keane said quickly. An assistant knelt, feeling William's neck. "Weak, but present," he whispered. Immediately, they began resuscitation. Meanwhile, Princess Anne stepped back, hands trembling, tears brimming. She had never seen her brother so vulnerable. Since childhood, William had always been strong, a pillar for the family after Diana's death. The sight left her stunned, her heart tightening as though gripped by an invisible hand. "We need to get him to the medical wing immediately," Dr. Keane shouted. A stretcher was brought in, and two staff carefully lifted William. Every movement was executed with absolute precision. Eyes met, but no one dared speak more than a word. The corridor leading to Windsor Castle's special medical wing erupted into controlled chaos. White lights flickered, reflecting off the ancient portraits lining the walls, as if the very spirits of the past were watching. The wheels of the stretcher clattered against the stone floor, footsteps echoing sharply in the cold, cavernous space. At 8:21 p.m., William was transferred to the specialized medical room, previously used to monitor King Charles during his brief hospital stays earlier that year. Monitors were activated. Heart rate readings blinked intermittently. Doctors worked with urgency, checking blood pressure, administering IVs, and attaching ECG leads. Outside, Princess Anne waited in silence. No one spoke. The team of aides stood around, eyes heavy with worry. A nurse stepped forward quietly. "The prince is temporarily stable, but we need to monitor him further." Anne nodded gently, exhaling deeply, though her eyes remained shadowed with fear. By 8:45 p.m., the entire area was under strict lockdown. Security staff required everyone involved to sign confidentiality agreements. No one was permitted to disclose what had occurred. Phones were confiscated, all external communication cut off. Windsor Castle fell into a strange darkness, silent yet weighty with tension. While the doctors continued their work, Princess Anne sat quietly outside the medical room, hands tightly clasped. She peered through the glass, watching her brother lie still, his pale face illuminated by the stark white light. Something inside her whispered that this was no ordinary fatigue. For weeks, Anne had sensed William's gradual exhaustion, yet she had never imagined it would escalate so quickly. At the same time, in the West Wing corridor, a young servant stood trembling by the internal phone. She had overheard a fragment of conversation between the doctors. "They suspect symptoms similar to King Charles' condition." She covered her mouth, terrified. The lockdown prevented her from speaking, but rumors began to spread internally within hours. That night, Windsor did not sleep. The lights in the medical wing remained on until dawn. Wind whistled through the narrow windows, carrying with it the sounds of anxiety and secrecy. Every footstep along the corridors echoed like the toll of fate in a desperate effort to keep everything under control. The royal household issued an urgent directive. No details regarding Prince William's health are to be disclosed. All information must go through the Buckingham Palace Communications Office. But in the modern world, secrets are fragile. A medical staff member left Windsor in the early hours of the morning. By noon the following day, an anonymous post appeared on social media, reading, "A serious incident has occurred at Windsor Castle. Prince William has been rushed for emergency care." The storm began. In the early hours of October 16, 2025, the whole of England seemed to awaken in a nightmare. Major newspapers across London ran the same headline: "Prince William suffers serious health incident at Windsor Castle." The news broke at 5:48 a.m. But within less than an hour, emergency alerts flooded radio, television, and social media. Heir to the throne hospitalized overnight. No one knew exactly what had happened behind the cold walls of Windsor Castle. But for the British public, the word serious alone was enough to make hearts tighten. In collective memory, The tragic death of Princess Diana in 1997 had never faded, and now that same fear seemed to return, this time for her son, at Sandringham, where King Charles was resting. The telephone rang through the night. The on-duty assistant rushed in, voice trembling. "Your Majesty, Prince William has collapsed during a meeting at Windsor. He is currently receiving emergency care in the Royal Medical Wing." The king sat in silence, his face ashen. He slowly straightened, hands shaking as they rested on his knees. Despite having endured many crises, the news about his eldest son left him stunned. After a few moments, Charles gave the order. "Summon the advisory team immediately. No information is to be leaked." Within an hour, a lockdown was implemented. All staff present at Windsor were required to sign absolute confidentiality agreements. Outgoing calls were monitored, and the castle's internal network was temporarily disconnected. Charles sought to prevent panic, at least until his son's condition could be confirmed. But no matter how cautious, the British royal family could not control everything in the extra of information. Just before 3 a.m., an anonymous source, believed to be a member of the royal medical team, quietly contacted a veteran reporter at the Times. Only a brief message: "A serious incident has occurred with Prince William at Windsor." By 5 a.m., the official statement was released. Within minutes, the nation was shaken. At Adelaide Cottage, Princess Catherine was awakened by urgent knocking at her door. A security officer spoke briefly. "Your Highness, the prince has been transferred to the medical wing at Windsor. You must come immediately." Catherine froze for a moment, unable to believe her ears. Only last night, William had texted her about the meeting with Princess Anne. She quickly threw on a robe, without makeup, carrying nothing but her wedding ring. The escort vehicle sped through the night, slicing through the thick Berkshire fog. Meanwhile, at Windsor, Princess Anne remained by her brother's side. She had witnessed the entire ordeal, from the moment William collapsed onto the table to the doctors rushing in to administer emergency care. Now, as he lay in the medical wing, Anne sat silently in the corridor, her eyes red and swollen. He was utterly exhausted. She whispered to a royal aide. "We all saw it, but no one stopped him." By 6 o'clock in the morning, major television networks began running breaking news. Reporters were stationed outside Windsor's gates, cameras fixed on the palace, where the windows remained tightly shut. Police increased security, blocking all routes leading to the castle. Yet it was this very silence that heightened public anxiety. In royal history, the phrase "no comment" was only ever used when matters were truly serious. On social media, speculation quickly spread. Some suggested that Prince William had simply been overworked. Over the past 2 months, he had appeared publicly almost daily, taking on military ceremonies on behalf of his father, attending diplomatic events, and handling hundreds of documents each day. "He barely sleeps," an anonymous palace staffer told the Daily Mail. "The last time I saw the prince smile was over a month ago." Yet others began asking a more troubling question. Could William be suffering from a hereditary condition, like King Charles? Some newspapers dug up medical information previously disclosed during the king's treatment at a London hospital in early 2024. At the time, Charles was reported to have undergone a private heart procedure. Medical experts noted that if William inherited a vulnerable cardiovascular system from his father, a collapse under extreme stress would not be unexpected. On national television, renowned cardiologist Dr. Michael Rowe offered his analysis. Looking at the prince's recent schedule and appearance, it's clear he is in a state of total physical exhaustion, but the most concerning factor is genetics. Inherited heart conditions can remain hidden for years, only manifesting under severe stress. His statement immediately ignited public alarm. Shares of several major UK companies even dipped slightly that morning, as people and investors alike viewed William not merely as an individual, but as a symbol of national stability. Meanwhile, Buckingham Palace remained silent. The press office issued only a brief statement. "The Prince of Wales is being monitored and cared for by the Royal Medical Team. His current condition is stable. We ask the public to respect the family's privacy at this time." But few believed the word stable. Insider sources revealed that Windsor's internal medical wing, the same facility used for King Charles, had been placed under complete lockdown. Only Princess Anne, Princess Catherine, and the designated medical team were permitted entry. By around 9 o'clock, Catherine was seen leaving the medical wing, her face etched with worry. A witness said she said nothing, quietly wiping away her tears. At Sandringham, King Charles had not yet appeared publicly. He spent the morning making continuous calls to doctors and advisors. According to a close source, the king was deeply emotional and felt guilty for allowing his son to shoulder so much. A longtime friend revealed he said he should have stepped in sooner, to give William a chance to breathe. By midday, British television replayed a series of recent images of the prince, his frame thinner, eyes shadowed, smiles forced. The more the public watched, the more they realized the press might have been right. William was carrying a condition the family had long tried to conceal. Across London, people began leaving flowers outside Windsor Castle. No one spoke, but all understood the shared fear that had gripped the nation. Then, in the middle of the afternoon, a source from within the palace leaked the first medical summary. Though only a few lines long, it was enough to shock the nation. Prince William has shown abnormal cardiovascular signs and requires special monitoring. Those words were read live on BBC, leaving the studio in stunned silence for several seconds. An editor whispered, "God, not this again." No one spoke aloud, but everyone understood. The condition that King Charles had carried, now perhaps, passed on to the heir to the throne. In less than 12 hours, what had begun as a private meeting had escalated into a national crisis. For the first time in decades, the public realized that the throne, a symbol of the country's supposed stability, might be facing a storm. According to a preliminary report from the Royal Medical Team, several of William's health indicators, particularly his white blood cell count and immune system markers, were abnormal. These figures were strikingly similar to those recorded when King Charles was diagnosed with cancer in 224. An anonymous insider within Windsor Palace told international media, "The doctors cannot conclude definitively yet, but they are genuinely concerned this could be hereditary. Anything is possible." The statement immediately sparked speculation and anxiety, not only within the royal family but across the nation. Even members less directly involved in William's daily duties began feeling the weight of the situation. The fear that the throne itself could be jeopardized if the Duke of Cambridge fell ill made the palace atmosphere tense to the point of suffocation. Windsor Palace convened an emergency closed-door meeting that night. The room was silent, illuminated only by dim yellow light on medical documents and computer screens displaying preliminary results. Close advisors, long-serving royal staff, and top physicians were summoned. Every eye in the room focused on William, still in the internal medical wing after collapsing the night before. Anxiety and tension were written across every face. No one dared speak, for any wrong word could worsen the situation. The preliminary medical report made the air even heavier. William's white blood cell count fluctuated abnormally, and some immune markers were below normal, strikingly similar to those seen when King Charles was first diagnosed with cancer. A royal physician, speaking anonymously in strict confidence, said, "We cannot rule out a hereditary factor. Further testing is required, but vigilance is essential from this moment." Meanwhile, other members of the royal family began to show more visible signs of concern. Though they tried to remain composed, Princess Anne, with her usual calm, became the emotional anchor for those around her. She repeatedly reassured aides and medical staff, "William needs rest and careful monitoring. Do not panic. We must rely on data, not speculation." Yet even her eyes betrayed the tension, reflecting the fear that William might be facing a serious health issue similar to his father's. Outside Windsor, news began leaking despite attempts to keep it contained. Major outlets such as BBC, CNN, and The Guardian reported warnings. Prince William experiences health incident at Windsor. Could this indicate a hereditary condition similar to King Charles? Each article raised questions about whether William might be carrying the illness that the nation had followed closely when Charles was hospitalized in 2024. Even medical experts on television could not hide their caution. A leading cardiologist noted, William's immune and white blood cell counts show certain similarities to the tests previously recorded for King Charles. Close monitoring is necessary. Inside the palace, the reaction among aides and medical staff was equally tense. Those directly responsible for William's care were on edge with every breath he took. Vital signs, heart rate, blood pressure, body temperature, were tracked around the clock, with every minor change recorded. Doctors consulted continuously by phone with outside specialists, but strictly adhered to confidentiality protocols to prevent public panic. The discussions within the royal family extended beyond William's health. Immediately, the issue of succession became central. Should William suffer a serious setback, the throne could face an unprecedented situation not seen since Queen Elizabeth II's reign. Questions about the future, each royal's responsibilities, and maintaining public confidence were brought to the table. Every opinion was expressed with the utmost caution, for any misstep could shake the public's trust. International media seized the opportunity, constantly speculating. Some commentators highlighted the pressure of William's demanding schedule as the main cause of his health instability. Others emphasized the hereditary factor, recalling King Charles's cancer. Could this be Britain's greatest succession crisis of the century? Social media erupted, spreading anxiety and conjecture, as the public watched every detail of the Duke's health unfold in real time. While the public frenzy continued, Princess Anne maintained her calm and composed demeanor. She frequently checked on William, spoke with doctors and aides, and reminded everyone that decisions must be guided by data rather than emotion. She explained, "Nothing has been confirmed. None of us should panic over speculation. William needs rest, monitoring, and time." Her composure helped the aides and medical staff focus on caring for William, easing some of the chaos within the palace. However, pressure from the media and the public showed no sign of letting up. Even cautious medical experts could not ignore the preliminary similarities between William and King Charles. A close insider revealed, even the most skilled doctors had to acknowledge that William's abnormal white blood cell and immune counts immediately reminded them of King Charles's condition last year. That is why they wanted further, more detailed tests. This heightened the palace's vigilance. Closed-door meetings ran continuously for hours, from the medical wing to private conference rooms, ensuring that every decision was based on medical data and scientific analysis, not emotions or rumors. Precautionary measures were in place, from strict information control to ensuring the medical team was ready to intervene immediately at any sign of abnormality. Aides were also reminded of the critical importance of secrecy. Even a single leaked line could have unpredictable consequences. Anyone who violated protocol would face strict accountability. In order to protect not only William's health, but also the credibility and stability of the royal family. The following day, speculation continued, with international media analyzing everything from hereditary concerns to work-related stress. Many wondered whether William might face the same illness as his father, and, if so, what that would mean for succession. On social media, hashtags related to William's health quickly climbed to the top trending topics, reflecting the widespread reach of the information and the public's intense interest. Throughout it all, Princess Anne remained the voice of balance, repeatedly emphasizing that all actions and decisions must be guided by facts and data. She continually reminded those around her, "Do not let imagination or panic guide us. William needs care, monitoring, and time to recover." Her calm presence provided crucial emotional support, helping the royal family maintain control amid the storm of information. This was one of the moments when the British royal family faced its greatest pressure in decades. William's health crisis raised questions not only about his physical and mental well-being, but also about the responsibilities, reputation, and stability of the monarchy. Measures for information management, medical coordination, and public image maintenance were prioritized above all else. As Princess Anne had insisted, the final outcome was not yet publicly confirmed, but the anxiety and tension it had caused demonstrated one truth: Sometimes fear stems more from speculation, imagination, and public pressure than from reality itself. In the early hours of 18 October 2025, official information from Windsor Palace was finally disclosed internally. Prince William did not have any form of cancer. The cause of his collapse during the private meeting on 15 October was simply exhaustion and prolonged work-related stress. The news acted like a gentle breeze, easing the 2 days of worry and tension within the palace and across the royal family. Doctors closely monitoring William explained that in recent weeks, the prince had endured immense pressure. He stayed up late continuously to complete royal duties, from preparing ceremonies and memorials to attending official trips, while also following the schedule of his father, King Charles, who was undergoing treatment. William's white blood cell and immune markers showed temporary abnormalities, but medical experts confirmed this was entirely the result of fatigue and stress, with no connection to cancer or any other serious illness. According to the medical team, William must rest completely for at least 2 weeks, avoid all stress, suspend all royal duties, and focus on recovering both physically and mentally. This was non-negotiable. As his body was in a warning state, excessive pressure could lead to more serious health incidents if not addressed. A royal physician shared, "William has overworked himself. We cannot allow any sign that his body is working against him. Rest is now the only path to recovery." Once the information was confirmed, King Charles immediately ordered that William recuperate at Sandringham, which offered full facilities and the privacy necessary for recovery. William's key responsibilities were temporarily entrusted to Princess Anne, the only royal with both the experience and composure to manage sensitive situations. During these tense hours, Anne proved steady and decisive, ensuring that operations ran smoothly while closely supervising and supporting her brother's care and recovery. The reaction of Duchess Catherine also drew particular attention. Throughout the tense period, she had remained steadfastly by William's side and was seen leaving the medical wing with a face that reflected both relief and lingering worry. Catherine fully understood the pressure her husband had endured. Every moment over the past few days, she had closely monitored his health metrics, offered comfort and encouragement, and coordinated with the medical team to ensure that every preparation was made for the prince's recovery. It was not only the royal family who felt relief. Close advisors and palace staff expressed a sense of reassurance after receiving confirmation of the results. They had endured 2 days of intense anxiety while initial reports remained unverified, and rumors about William potentially inheriting the same illness as King Charles had spread throughout the palace. Concerns about the throne and the stability of the monarchy had weighed heavily on everyone. But now, with the official confirmation, things were set back on course. Princess Anne, the only member who had maintained composure throughout the emergency, continued to remind advisors, "It's important to look at the facts and not let fear dictate decisions. William just needs rest and time. Everything will be fine." Her words not only reassured the palace staff but also sent an important message about staying calm and controlling information during a crisis. Although international media had once surged with speculation about hereditary illness, now, with official information verified, the public felt a measure of relief. The episode served as a vivid example of how work pressure and stress can produce concerning health signals, and how, when amplified by the media, such signals can easily turn into a storm of rumors that unsettles public opinion. It was a lesson not only for the royal family, but for anyone carrying heavy responsibilities under constant pressure. Detailed analysis from the medical team indicated that the abnormal metrics William experienced were simply his body's response to lack of sleep, irregular nutrition, and prolonged stress. His immune system had temporarily weakened, leaving him fatigued, dizzy, and low on energy. This explained why William had fainted in the middle of an important meeting, not due to serious illness, but because his body had reached its limit. Doctors emphasized that continuing to work at such intensity could lead to repeated incidents, potentially more severe. Thus, resting at Sandringham was deemed absolutely essential. Inside the palace, this information was kept strictly confidential. Everyone present at the 15 October meeting was required to sign a confidentiality agreement to prevent unverified news from leaking. Yet the pressure and strain the prince had endured left a lasting impression on advisors, doctors, and close aides. They understood that, although the final results brought relief, excessive stress could have serious consequences, making the monitoring and care of William's health a top priority in the coming days. Beyond caring for William, Duchess Catherine also had the responsibility of keeping their children stable, while coordinating with the royal family to ensure that information was tightly controlled. She became a vital source of emotional support, helping William feel secure, while doctors and aides focused entirely on monitoring his health and facilitating recovery. International audiences, though once stirred by rumors of a hereditary condition similar to his father's, now felt reassured by the official confirmation. Major media outlets such as BBC, CNN, and Sky News highlighted that William faced no serious illness and simply needed rest and recovery. Nevertheless, the episode remained a powerful reminder of how pressure and stress can impact health, particularly for those bearing immense responsibilities, such as the Prince of Cambridge. With these results, William officially entered a period of recuperation at Sandringham. This time is necessary for him to fully recover both physically and mentally, free from the pressures of work and the media. Princess Anne will temporarily take on William's royal duties, ensuring that all activities continue smoothly and steadily. Overall, the unexpected collapse of William on the evening of 15 October, which had initially caused concern among the royal family and the public, is now clearly explained. The primary cause was exhaustion and stress, with no connection to any serious illness. It serves as a reminder of the importance of taking care of one's health, managing work-related pressure, and remaining calm in the face of unverified rumors. That afternoon, under a light drizzle along the road leading out of Windsor, Prince William stepped into his car, his gaze thoughtful as it lingered through the window. Everything around seemed hushed, leaving only the sound of falling rain and the steady, contemplative heartbeat of the Prince of Cambridge. The stress and worries of the past days, concerns over his health and the weight of responsibility, still lingered, a reminder that no one can remain unshakable in the face of every challenge. Princess Anne stood beside him, seeing her brother off with her usual calm composure. She spoke softly, her voice deep and weighty. Sometimes, the burden of the crown is not in the crown itself, but in the endurance of the one who wears it. Her words were not only a reminder of William's responsibilities, but also a message about the human being behind the crown, that even the strongest have moments of fatigue, moments when care and understanding are needed. Windsor Palace returned to its peaceful state as if no incident had occurred. Yet a quiet tension lingered in the air, a subtle reminder of the fragility of health and the importance of rest, in a world of power, prestige, and heavy responsibility. Sometimes the most precious thing is a moment of calm, a pause to recover and reflect. And as the car drove away, leaving glistening raindrops along the path, one question echoed in the minds of the public. Do you think William can continue to bear the weight of the crown after this fateful fall?